Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to pick on a game that everyone already doesn't like.
Wait a minute, Bruce. Cyberpunk already came out. You can't do that again. Oh, 2 points.
Why do you come here?
No, no. Today, the internet's bullying Redfall, the next game from Arcane Austin, set to launch on May 2nd for Windows and Xbox.
Yeah, and while a run-up to a game's launch is usually filled with all kinds of marketing about the game's features, last few weeks have been anything but kind for Redfall. And before we get into all that, though, we're going to do the YouTube thing real quick and remind you to subscribe to this channel for hot memes and thought-provoking analysis.
Welcome.
Oh, enough come already, Keanu. Geez, I know you love saying that word. We're talking about Redfall's not very good couple of weeks leading up to its launch. Charlotte, please talk about video games.
Oh, poor Redfall. I'm a documented Arcane fangirl. And this
absolutely, yeah.
hurts my heart. Oh, gosh. Yeah, the latest knock to Redfall's hype came from the game's official Twitter account, where Arcane announced that the game will ship with quality display modes only, which means it'll be capped at 30 frames per second on Xbox consoles. That means 4K, 30 FPS for the Xbox Series X, and just 1440p and 30 FPS on the Series S. Not great, Bob. They did say that 60 FPS performance mode will be added at a later date. Still, that's not a great first look for the fast-paced shooter, considering that lots of gamers prefer performance mode for that particular genre.
Like me, 60 FPS we were supposed to be done. 30 FPS was in the past. We could move on. We were civilized, finally. And no longer. It's just not a good look for this generation of Xbox consoles, which is kind of still waiting for its technical showcase. I mean, this was supposed to be the generation where we'd be playing everything in 4K at 60 frames a second. It sucks. Now even a Microsoft exclusive can't do that.
It's really weird. That's kind of another head scratcher about this whole thing. Arcane delayed Redfall in May 2022 and dropped a planned PlayStation 5 version of the game after Microsoft acquired Bethesda. So they had more time and fewer platforms to support. So the game should have been better, and it still can't hit the 60 FPS on console. Come on.
I want those 60 FPS. Yeah, it would make a little more sense if it were a technical showcase like I guess Hellblade 2 is supposed to be, or even Hellblade 1. But this is running on Unreal Engine 4, and just from the looks of it, it doesn't look all that technically punched up from last generation games.
Performance isn't the only aspect of the game that isn't hitting modern expectations either. There's also been backlash over Redfall's need for a persistent internet connection, even in single-player mode, something that is literally never ever popular with gamers ever.
Yeah, but I need a persistent connection with that kitty. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. But hey, if the game requires a connection, that's purely to ensure that your progress is always tracked and saved online, where no matter what, if your game crashes, you get knocked out of your friend's game, don't worry, your progress is saved. Right, Charlotte? Right?
I don't want her to hear this.
Oh, Redfall. Arcane.
Yeah. This one's a real zinger. In the year of our Lord 2023, Redfall is an online co-op game where only the host of a game makes any progress. Everyone else will have to repeat it solo or as a host themselves.
That sucks, man.
Okay, well, but think about it this way. You get to play it 4 times. That's value.
I used to tell myself that when I bought a bad game too, but it's not.
Yeah, we don't know it's bad yet, but yeah, when you start... I don't know, when I start having those thoughts, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm talking myself into liking this, aren't I? There's another strike against Redfall too, although the game itself isn't really to blame for this last one. It's just coming out in a really crowded time. Redfall is scheduled to be released on May 2nd. That's just a few days after the much anticipated Star Wars Jedi Survivor from Respawn, sequel to 2019's Jedi Fallen Order.
And unfortunately, Lawrence, that's not the only big game coming out in those next few weeks. 10 days after Redfall comes out, Nintendo drops a megaton bomb known as Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the game that everybody literally is going to play and buy. So, the worst possible place.
And I'm still playing Elden Ring.
Yeah, and Charlotte's still playing Elden Ring.
On some level, we're all still playing Elden Ring. I still haven't beat Millennia, so I got unfinished beef. And yeah, Tears of the Kingdom did just have an awesome 3rd gameplay trailer, so everything's going down really well for Tears of the Kingdom, not so well with Redfall.
Yeah, it's launching without a lot of modern features and a hyper-crowded launch window with tons of higher profile and more feature-complete video games. Big old oof.
Damn it, Arcane, you're supposed to make money so you can make more games. So yeah, it sucks. If you add it all together, it feels like the game is kind of releasing in a half-baked state, or at least not with all the features one might expect. I don't know. What's the buzz around the internet? What's the jazz? What are people blowing around the darker corners of the net, Charlotte?
Yeah, well, we went all the way deep to mainstream gaming media. Journalist Rob Keyes tweeted that the frame rate and host-only progression means my group won't play. I'd recommend Xbox titles launch when ready. First impressions matter. And indie dev Tom Happ, who made the Axiom Verge games, also suggested that the game be delayed until the promised 60 FPS happens. Paul Tassi of Forbes also thinks the game should be delayed, not just because of the FPS issues, but because of the crowded release window. I'm inclined to agree. Like, I want to see this game succeed. Vampires? Friendship?
Yeah, no, awesome.
Massachusetts?
It should be great. To be clear, we're not telling you Redfall is going to be bad. We don't know that. But with just a few weeks to go before its release, much of the chatter is about Redfall's cons rather than its pros. And if you're Microsoft, that's really not what you want to see leading up to the game.
Pretty much want to see anything but that. And also, Redfall theoretically marks the beginning of Microsoft's new round of first-party games. It's an opportunity to show off what a respected studio like Arcane can do now that it's part of Microsoft's roster, flexing the might of Game Pass and whatnot, but just doesn't seem to be shaping up that way. It seems like it's a release that's just kind of limping out. So I don't know. Charlotte, Bruce, how do y'all feel about Redfall?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, like, this would have been, like, I have a Series S that is mostly used to watch Law and Order these days, but it would have been nice to have something that could utilize, like, even in the you know, the relatively weaker console, to utilize the hardware that's inside that. And it's a shame because, like, I love Arcane. I mean, Prey is, like, one of my all-time favorites. I love the Dishonored series. I've been, well, meaning to finish Deathloop. I got COVID. It's not my fault. I associate it with a bad time. But yeah, this just feels like so many people making poor decisions. I would hate to be a developer right now who's looking at something you've spent so long on, get kind of pushed through. And it doesn't even make sense, though, for the, like, suits when you're considering this Bethesda first-party Microsoft release. Like, why would you want to, especially on the heels of another huge acquisition? Like, this does not show a lot of, I don't know, it doesn't instill faith, I think, in Microsoft taking in these giant IP, taking in these giant studios and saying, like, we're gonna make it worth it for gamers. And then just, like, it's unfortunate.
I've actually played this game. I got to play Redfall a few weeks ago, played it on what looked like dev kits with a controller. And so it was probably an Xbox dev kit, and it was 30 FPS, and it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. I was actually really looking forward to getting together a group and going through it and using all the arcane powers, and I was enjoying it. However, now it's going to be a harder sell to get people to come play this game, especially with the host does not progress. Oh, I'm sorry, the host progresses, but nobody else does. That's yet another thing. I think Anthem also sort of did, and I remember people being very confused about that with Anthem. So that is a major problem for me, although I'm playing it on PC, so I don't have to worry about 30 FPS.
I mean, that's where I will be too.
Yeah, thank God I've got my PC. But I feel terrible for all these console gamers. They shouldn't be getting 60 FPS in 2023. They should not. Everybody deserves 60 FPS.
Yeah, and even if, you know, the most casual people who haven't been gamer pilled yet, like, it's a very noticeable jump. Like, once you go from, like, 60 on up, like, it's diminishing returns, but 30 to 60, like, once you've seen the light of day, it's right. Unfortunately a really stark difference.
You can't go back. You just can't go back.
Ever since, like, the 360 PS3 generation, gamers have sadly forgotten what 60 FPS is like. So it was starting to come back, and I'd hoped that it was going to be basically a mandatory feature. So this is sad, especially for an online shooter. Those should be fast and smooth and buttery, right?
Just turn on motion smoothing.
Yeah, just crank it all the way up on your TV. Bruce, I'm curious, since you played it, I want to believe that there's some beautiful arcane DNA at the core of this game, because all the gameplay just looks like a pretty straightforward ability shooter. Where's the magic? Because Prey didn't show off all that well in previews either. And sometimes with arcane games especially, it's hard to show what's so special about them in just a trailer or a gameplay video. So I don't know, did you see some vision of that?
I can't tell you that because I played about 45 minutes of it. So
okay.
I don't know that I really had full magic there. This is going to either disappoint you or excite you, but loot drops, right? So you get a different gun. It's very much like Borderlands. If you got a purple gun, or I got I actually don't mind that. I know a lot of people online are like, blah, blah, they hate it.
Yeah.
But I kind of think it's fun. So regardless, I thought that was cool. And then you use the abilities and encounters and things like that. So you know, it is a looter shooter. That is what it is with arcane powers. So if you don't like that, I don't think you're going to like it. But I didn't get the arcane magic, much like the BioWare magic that we would normally get.
Well, what about that 24 karat magic?
I did not get the Bruno Mars 24 karat magic either. But I get it from you, Charlotte, every day. Lawrence, you want to talk about the Game Pass stuff?
It occurs to me that with the way they market Game Pass and the way that they treat games on Game Pass, releases don't really matter anymore. Every release is early access, and then it seems like they just kind of go with it and see if games develop an audience or not. And with something like Redfall, where it is like an online co-op shooter, maybe it is sort of like we've kind of talked about the idea of the minimum viable product a lot. What's the point in developing all these modes for an online shooter when you can just put it out on your subscription service, put it in front of a lot of people that have instant access to it, and just see what the uptake is in real time? See if the gameplay modes you've come up with are things that make people stick, if people are into the aesthetic and the sound and all that. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is the new Game Pass release strategy of just put a game out there. It's obviously not feature complete, but it doesn't have to be anymore. Because when you add features to it, then those become marketing beats of like, hey, performance mode is out for Redfall, everyone try it. And then you get these like moments where you can ask people to come back and try the game out again. So it's almost like you get multiple, hey, try our game out beats in by not launching it complete to begin with. And since it's on a subscription service, I don't know, that seems not as bad, I guess.
That's very much like Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves it launched horribly. Everybody was like, "This is there's the bones are here," but the game wasn't good. And that game has gotten so good over the years. So hopefully, Bethesda and Microsoft will invest time in Redfall, and in a year's time, it'll be a completely different game that's even more awesome. I just don't think the launch is going to be very big.
Grounded is also another kind of like, it's explicitly early access though. Whereas I guess Redfall, they're saying, no, this is retail release. So maybe it's just like it's just a verbiage thing or an expectations thing.
It seems like if this is like true to Arcane's like style of designing a game, like it's such a dense, like sort of like info rich world to explore usually with the immersive sim genre. And like there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And like, I'm not saying there's not thought that goes into Sea of Thieves or any of these other games, but like creating content for it, I don't know if it'll work the same way. I'm sure they have some kind of pipeline planned, maybe some sort of DLC action, but like it seems like, because like Sea of Thieves is iterative, and I feel like that is a very fitting game to have many, soft launches, almost like No Man's Sky, and I don't know from what I've seen if Redfall has the can withstand that kind of system. Completely
agree. I think they want it to. I think they want to be able to make in-game content. They want to make new raids for it as you get bigger and better. Again, everyone's trying to hit that Destiny model. Yeah. I think they want that, but I think you might be right, Charlotte. It may not be that game.
I don't want it to be that game.
I don't either.
Like, I want a really thoughtful world to explore that I would want to replay.
Oh, I don't know if they're making that game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that thoughtfulness can even exist with co-op. Like, you'll be reading your 2.5-page letter that somebody left in a briefcase about how they just got infected with a vampire virus, and then your other 3 teammates are just miles away.
That's right.
Doing backflips and
I
kicking
just read an entire email chain between marketing people.
I've got some patrons to thank from our Inside Games Patreon. You can help us make more content like this video. These patrons actually have all beaten Redfall already. I don't even know how they've done it, but it's just like Destiny. They're just going to go through it over and over and over. Not Gak, Talia Monochrome, Dan Halloran, and Mark Fletcher. They're experts.
They must have been the hosts, because my patrons have beaten it, but technically, they pull up their player file and it says 0 hours played, so it's a mess. Ray Pichardo, Keita White, Lenny Neves, and Xander. Better luck next time with that game progress. And hey, speaking of patrons, like we said last week, we've been commissioning some Inside Games comics. So we have a patron-exclusive gamer comic to tease out again this week. This one is it's Link going out for some cigarettes. He's had a bit of a revelation there. But yes, the internet's bravest news source is bringing newspaper comics back. It's everything old is new again. So thank you, patrons, and thank you for funding fine art such as this.